support reparations for black people?
Well, listen, again, we had over 200 years of slavery. We had Jim Crow for almost a century. We had legalized discrimination, segregation, and now we have segregation and discrimination that is not legal but still exists and is a barrier to progress. We have disparities around housing. We have disparities around education. We have disparities around income. And we have to recognize that everybody did not start out on an equal footing in this country. And in particular, black people have not. And so we have got to recognize that and do something about that and give folks a lift up. That's why, for example, I'm proposing the LIFT Act. Give people who are making $100,000 or less as a family a tax credit, which will benefit and uplift 60% of black families who are in poverty.
So by default, it affects black families, but there's not a particular policy for African Americans that you would explore.
But no, if you look at the reality of who will benefit from certain policies, when you take into account that they're not starting at the same place and they're not starting on equal footing, it will directly benefit black children, black families, black homeowners, because the disparities are so significant. So if we focus on the specific issues that have resulted in the greatest disparities, and we understand that that's part of why we're doing it. Listen, the reality also is this: any policy that will benefit black people will benefit all of society.
They presented America as a bastion of liberty. But what if its true nature was never that of a nation, but a venture primarily driven by profit? From its very inception, America's foundation wasn't about upholding freedom for all, but about accumulating wealth, treating human beings as commodities. For 400 years, black individuals were systematically reduced to property. This often omitted historical truth reveals that America was never truly a country for black people. It was a business, and like any successful business, it required cheap labor, strict control, and maximal returns. The Constitution, rather than being a blueprint for universal freedom, functioned as a business contract. A stark statistic from the Gilder Lehrman Institute reveals that 40 out of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence were enslavers. These were not simply advocates for freedom, but individuals protecting their investments. From the nation's purported birth, the economy was fueled by the exploitation of black bodies. Black people were not immigrants or citizens, they were assets. This system, though transformed, persists. We will now dissect this reality, not with opinions, but with verifiable data, exposing the stark numbers they hoped would remain unexamined. Once understood, a chilling realization emerges. To our international community of Black history enthusiasts, please share your location in the comments. America was designed not to serve black people, but to control and exploit them, a dynamic that largely continues today. While textbooks claim slavery ended in 1865, the 13th Amendment merely repackaged it. The crucial phrase, "except as a punishment for crime," became the legal loophole that transitioned slavery into mass incarceration. Post-Civil War, Southern states continued to profit from black labor through convict leasing. Thousands of black men were arrested for minor offenses like loitering or unemployment, then leased to corporations. The Equal Justice Initiative reported that by 1908, over 73,000 black prisoners in Alabama alone were leased to private companies. This wasn't about justice, it was about profit. These men endured brutal conditions in coal mines, railroads, steel plants, and brick factories, with many not surviving. Iconic companies like U.S. Steel directly benefited. Relying on this convict labor, the slavery business simply adopted a new name, the prison industrial complex. Today, America, with 5% of the global population, houses 25% of the world's prisoners. The NAACP reports that black Americans, comprising just 13% of the US population, constitute over 38% of the incarcerated population. This disparity points to control, not crime, as prisons operate as a business model. Inmates are paid negligible wages, some as low as 23 cents an hour or nothing at all. They produce goods for major corporations, yet are denied basic rights like voting, firearm ownership, or federal housing. This begs the question, did slavery end, or did it merely become a corporate enterprise? Within American capitalism, black bodies have consistently generated revenue. Education, often presented as a pathway to liberation, has for millions of black Americans become a new form of servitude, with student debt acting as a modern-day instrument of control. The intention was never for black people to build generational wealth, but to be a source of income for others. When physical labor extraction diminished, the focus shifted to extracting dreams through debt, denial, and discrimination. This isn't about individual choices, but engineered systemic outcomes. When a nation commodifies human beings and treats freedom as a luxury, it functions as a business. And for black people, this business has always been about their subjugation. The prison system is an upgraded version of the plantation, now enclosed by walls, barbed wire, and government funding. America has the highest incarceration rate globally, with over 2 million people imprisoned, and nearly 40% are black, despite being only 13% of the US population, NAACP 2023. Let's examine the financial implications. The Brookings Institution, 2021, found that 4 years post-graduation, black borrowers owe 186% more in student debt than white borrowers. The average white graduate has approximately $25,000 in loans, while the average black graduate carries over $52,000. Furthermore, due to lower post-graduation wages, job discrimination, and limited family wealth, black borrowers are 5 times more likely to default on student loans. Education Data Initiative 2022. The cycle was redesigned to perpetuate debt, benefiting big banks, loan servicers, private universities, and the US government through billions in interest payments. The racial wealth gap exacerbates these issues. The Pew Research Center 2023 indicates that due to this gap, black students are more likely to borrow, less likely to receive family assistance, and more likely to delay milestones like home ownership and marriage. This debt isn't just financial, it's generational, designed to hinder progress. When physical chains became obsolete, control shifted to contracts like student and car loans and predatory credit, all designed to profit from black ambition, monetizing black success itself. Consider the racial wealth gap. The Brookings Institution 2022 reports the median white household net worth at $188,200.00, while the median black household net worth is a mere $24,100.00. An economic chasm engineered by design. The average white family possesses nearly 8 times more wealth, representing home equity, savings, investments, and ultimately freedom. This disparity is not new. It's the result of centuries of systemic extraction, stolen labor, blocked land ownership, and discriminatory charges. The Institute for Policy Studies projects that without intervention, black median wealth could reach zero by 2053. This is not due to a lack of effort, but a rigged system. Even successful black families remain vulnerable, lacking the safety net that others have. Media portrayals of black excellence often serve as a distraction, obscuring that these are exceptions, not the rule. America continues to profit from black disadvantage across all sectors, from banking to housing, education, and employment. A business model thriving on black bodies, The U.S. prison industry generates over $80 billion, 0 cents annually, with private prison corporations like CoreCivic and Geo Group traded on the NYSE. Black suffering is literally a stock option. Within these prisons, inmates, predominantly black and brown, work for pennies, producing goods from license plates to uniforms for major companies like McDonald's, Whole Foods, Victoria's Secrets, Starbucks, and AT&T. These companies strategically outsource labor to the cheapest workforce, incarcerated individuals. This system is perpetuated by underfunded schools in black communities, over-policing, and zero-tolerance policies that funnel black children from classrooms to courtrooms. The school-to-prison pipeline. The U.S. Department of Education, 2018, reported that black students are 3.5 times more likely to be suspended than white students for similar behavior, a step that often leads to a criminal record, hindering college access and ultimately perpetuating cycles of incarceration. This is a deliberate design, replacing auction blocks with corporate logos. Following the money reveals that black individuals, even in chains, continue to generate revenue and are owned by the system. If America was built on ownership of black people, who truly owns America now? Despite the end of chattel slavery, redlining, and the rise of the prison industrial complex, black people still lack true ownership. The Harvard Business Review 2022 states that black founders receive less than 2% of venture capital funding in the US, not due to weaker ideas, but systemic perceptions of risk. Black-owned businesses face underfunding, overtaxation, and strategic barriers to long-term success, while white-owned businesses dominate nearly every major industry. In terms of land ownership, the USDA 2021 reveals that over 98% of rural farmland is white-owned, with black people who historically toiled on this land building generational wealth without land or capital in a system designed to deny both is nearly impossible. The media often showcases black celebrities or entrepreneurs as proof of equality, but individual success does not negate centuries of economic theft. Black people do not control banks, media, or the industries shaping the country. This is by design, as true power lies in controlling the systems that generate wealth, narrative, laws, and legacy. The wealth built on the backs of black people is now used to exclude them. This is not about jealousy, but justice. Freedom is meaningless when ownership is everything, and the builders possess nothing. While a black president, billionaire, or CEO might be presented as a sign of progress, it's often a distraction. During Barack Obama's presidency, black wealth dropped by over 30% due to the housing crash that disproportionately affected black homeowners. Center for Responsible Lending 2015. Wall Street received bailouts while black families faced foreclosures. Regarding black billionaires like Beyoncé, Oprah, and Jay-Z, they represent a tiny fraction, 9 out of over 700 US billionaires, Forbes 2024, barely 1% in a country where black people are 13% of the population. This highlights that extreme success remains the exception. A Harvard University study revealed that resumes with traditionally black-sounding names are 50% less likely to receive callbacks than white-sounding names with identical qualifications. When hired, black people are often paid less, promoted slower, and undervalued. Black women, the most educated demographic in the US, earn only 63 cents for every dollar a white man earns. National Women's Law Center, 2023. This is not a failure of work ethic, but a systemic denial of opportunity. In politics, while black leaders have emerged, challenging the status quo often leads to suppression through gerrymandering, voter suppression, or media character assassination. The system co-adopts black success rather than fearing it, using individual stories to mask systemic realities. Representation alone is insufficient. True power lies in infrastructure. Who owns the land, controls banks, shapes education, and dictates investment patterns. This is not coincidental, but by design. The idea of pulling oneself up by the bootstraps is a myth when the means to do so have been systematically stripped away. This progress is an illusion, a smokescreen designed to obscure an ongoing battle fought through paychecks, loan denials, prison sentences, and the premature criminalization of black children. The system has not changed. It has merely become more adept at disguising its mechanisms of control behind contracts and consumer culture. Therefore, when hearing land of the free, one must ask, free for whom? When hearing justice for all, one must question, all who look like what? America in this analysis is not broken. It functions precisely as designed, as a corporation where black individuals from their forced arrival were treated as capital, not citizens. The veil is now lifting, and the truth is undeniable. So, what is the next step? Since America was built on ownership, with black bodies, labor, and futures as its capital, the illusion is crumbling. This was not a broken system, but a profitable one. We encourage viewers globally to comment their location, demonstrating a unified awareness of this truth. This story is global, generational, and deeply personal. Black people were never meant to inherit this system, but to maintain it. Now, it is time to question, to rebuild, and to claim what was always meant to be ours. This truth, this moment, is ours.